You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
WCYTV.
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. There's a lot to dig into this evening, no matter where you're joining us from. We're glad that you're with us. There are a few updates coming out of the administration that are not getting the coverage that they need. So first of all, the difference in the failure between Democrat-run governments in places like Maryland and Republican-run governments that actually assist with federal authorities, it is a massive chasm of difference. And not just between, again, state governments and the federal governments, but the difference in federal administrations. So in 2023, the Maryland police ignored an immigration customs enforcement detainer, despite this individual's first-degree murder and gun charges. So Johnny Handy Martinez Barrias, I wonder if Johnny Handy is his MS-13 name, which is just a very unfortunate MS-13 name. Anyway, Johnny Martinez Barrias was just arrested, an illegal immigrant, of course. A Honduran member of MS-13 was just arrested in northern Indiana. And we actually do have that footage. So just at a typical Midwestern Indiana gas station, being put into the vehicle. And we're going to stop the video right there. If you're watching, you'll see he looks like, again, does that look like a pregnant lady to you? Again, Ketanji Brown-Jackson of the Supreme Court is not allowed to answer that question. Does that look like an elderly man just playing chess in the park? Or a 2-year-old that's just got cancer? Because that's who you're being told the Trump administration is trying to deport. Yet in all of these arrest videos, what I see are guys that look exactly like this, who often have charges that they committed. Again, crimes they committed that they were charged for, exactly like this. First-degree murder, gun charges. Now, hang on a second here. Why do I start off with Maryland? The Maryland police let the guy go. He has first-degree murder and gun charges. They let him go free. Why? Well, because he's meeting with some kind of an immigration judge, and after all, maybe he's going to go through the process to claim legal asylum or whatever. No, that is a very, very, very bad thing. The Tennessee Highway Authority was ordered by the Biden administration to release Kilmar Abrego Garcia, so-called Maryland man. Oh, hey, look, Maryland is back with us. Yeah. After the human trafficking that was on display in front of the police on the body cams. Now we have to round up those individuals yet again. So this is according to Fox News. Federal authorities in Indiana recently nabbed 2 illegal immigrants. Oh yeah, I forgot. The police also found Danilo Almilicar Escobar, who was deported 3 times since April of 2024 and has charges for jaywalking, shoplifting. Oh, no. He has charges for strangulation, domestic battery, and cocaine possession. Again, just pregnant women who want to come here for a better life seeking asylum from very dangerous countries. So, federal authorities in Indiana recently nabbed 2 illegal immigrants accused of murder, strangulation, and other violent crimes. ICE and FBI agents detained Honduran national and alleged MS-13 member Johnny Handy Martinez Barrias, according to a statement posted to X from ICE earlier today. Martinez Barrias has been previously charged with first-degree murder and possession of a firearm. However, Maryland police allegedly backed out of enforcing an ICE detainer in 23, allowing him to endanger American communities until we finish the job, ICE wrote in the statement. Now, I can't help but notice that when the media covers these particular incidents, they never cover it quite appropriately. Guys, I'm going to let you in on a little bit of a secret. Not just deporting the criminals, but mass deportation of illegal immigrants in this country is extremely popular. That is the centrist position. It's not the far right-wing position. It's not even the moderate Republican position. Mass deportation of illegal immigrants in this country is the centrist position. There will be people that tell you from right-leaning and left-leaning networks that, oh, really, Americans just want the hardened criminals like this deported. No, that ship has sailed. For example, Jessica Tarlov on Fox News earlier today tried to make the case that Americans don't want to see cops roll up to the Home Depot and throw out illegal immigrants. That's not what this is about.
They need to cooperate with ICE to hand over people who have been convicted of something. I'm not talking about crossing the border as something that is convictable. I'm saying that if you commit a crime once you are on U.S. soil, you should be turned over to ICE. And I think that's an easy exchange. And that's what people voted for in November. And you would have a much stronger case against the overreach that we're seeing in terms of what ICE is doing now that is not commensurate with what the American public wants. They didn't vote for people to show up at Home Depots. They didn't vote for people to show up at immigration courts. They didn't vote for the fact that there's new data out from Cato that 65% of...
Oh, from Cato. Yeah, spare me. You're telling me Americans didn't vote for this? Gee, I sure hope there aren't a slew of polls right here in front of God and everyone that suggests the majority of Americans are in favor of mass deportation. Whether you pick them up from the Whole Foods, the Home Depot, in the field, at the factory, on the job site, no matter where they're from, if they came in illegally and they skipped ahead of all of the legal immigrants from Central and South America and Europe and Africa and Asia, because they thought that, well, if I just come in and claim asylum, I'll be fine. It turns out the majority of Americans don't feel that way. Oh, wait, there are polls that suggest that. Here's Harry Enton from CNN.
Deport all immigrants who are here illegally, 55% of the New York Times, Marquette 64%, CBS News 57%, ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across 4 different pollsters.
So I'm just, looking across polls like these, you don't normally see this amount of favor. You don't. You might see a 51 or a 52% of all Americans and then the others kind of fluctuating. Everything north of 50%, some in the 60s, Americans supporting not just getting rid of illegal immigrants who've committed violent crimes, but also getting rid of illegal immigrants, period, from this country is extremely popular with Americans. It is. You can say it's not. You can listen to people telling you that, well, really, the moderate, more humane position is it? No. If you have skipped in line, you should go to the back of the line. And then when you have people like Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, who likes to, go on lovely jet-setting vacations while her city burns to the ground, and then flips off everyone in Los Angeles when they're trying to rebuild their homes, flips off her own police officers when they're getting chunks of concrete thrown at their heads. She comes out and tries to act tough as though she's the leader of some silent majority.
Frankly, it is outrageous and un-American that we have federal armed vehicles in our parks when...
By the way, federal armed vehicles, I don't know what on earth that's supposed to mean. Producer Nick, would you tell me, did they show up with like Humvees, with like mounted machine guns? Can you research that real quick? When they showed up to the park in LA, did they show up in armed vehicles? I don't know what an armed vehicle is supposed to be. Other way, Lightning McQueen holding the Glock. Ka-chow! I don't think so. But just so that we get this right here on the air, because I believe they showed up in SUVs, right? Okay, well, unless the SUVs are showing up strapped with technicals, I doubt it.
Nothing is going on in the parks.
Nothing is going on in the parks. I don't have the time nor the clearance via the FCC to air what has been recorded going on in the parks in Los Angeles from illegal immigrants because it is so disturbing. We wouldn't be able to even put a viewer discretion label. We would have to remove it because that's how bad it is. But again, she's on, well, not necessarily a roll of toilet paper, maybe.
It's outrageous and un-American that the federal government seized our state's National Guard.
Seized. Mm-hmm. That 1934 law seizing things in 2025.
It's outrageous and un-American that we have U.S. Marines who are trained to kill foreign soldiers overseas deployed in our American city.
I'm going to tell you a secret about the oath to the Constitution. It's against enemies foreign and domestic. That would be domestic for the bonus point. So if you don't understand the oath to the Constitution, if you don't understand that people setting things on fire and throwing, rocks at police is bad, And then you can turn around and not really quite understand why voters aren't running excitedly towards your program. I mean, that kind of tracks. If you don't understand one thing so basic, how are you supposed to understand the other? Radio Crew will catch you in a second. We're going to head over to commercial for them. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. All right, over here on the live stream. Beyond the Democrats losing their marbles comes the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, as a bit of a reminder here, we'll take a trip down the lovely memory lane. The Democrats have one skill that is far beyond anything else. This particular skill is going way too far, way too fast. They'll come out and they'll say, we want something. It's unpopular with Americans. Doesn't matter what it is. There's something that the constitutional framers, the founding fathers set up that would hamper Democrats from achieving their political aims, whatever they may be. And so then the Democrats, those on the left, will say, well, we're going to do it anyway. And we're going to use any kind of organizational hook. We're going to use any kind of minuscule bureaucratic lever to achieve those aims. And so they stuffed the federal bureaucracy full of people who were going to carry out their particular whims and wishes. And they stuffed the federal courts full of people that were going to do their whims and wishes. So much so that Chuck Schumer got up in front of the country, who we're going to talk about here in just a second with Rebecca Downs, and bragged about how easy it was going to be to stop Donald Trump. And the Supreme Court ruled in a 6-3 decision that no, the district court judges around the country no longer have the authority to just throw out random injunctions based on individual lawsuits. So if you sue the federal government because you don't like Donald Trump, some district court judge out of Connecticut or New Hampshire or California or Idaho or Kentucky or Texas, even during the Biden administration, does not have the right to simply buck federal law, therefore allowing Congress to kind of sit on its butt and do nothing, which is a U.S. Congress specialty. Judges do not have the authority to do that. The executive branch is going to be given the ability to carry out the duties that the executive branch has been given by the Constitution and the Congress of the United States of America. Ketanji Brown-Jackson, the Supreme Court justice who cannot tell you what a woman is, again, supposed to be one of the chief legal minds in our country, wrote a dissenting opinion that was so embarrassing, again, so humiliating, that the majority opinion took the time, Amy Coney Barrett specifically, took the time to say that Justice Ketanji Brown-Jackson was a clown for using terms like wait for it and legalese instead of writing specific documentation and analyses that resulted in a ruling in the United States Constitution. And this gets a little bit rough for today, because as we're going to talk about with a little breaking news at the time with Rebecca Downs here in just a couple of minutes, the Supreme Court ruled today in an 8-1 decision. Can you guess which liberal justice was dissenting? And what came out of this was a backhanded slap, not from Amy Coney Barrett, but of all wonderful, amazingly stupendous coincidences, Sonia Sotomayor, the liberal justice, was the one who came down against Ketanji Brown-Jackson. Now, I do want to point out one thing here. Producer Nick is sharing a photo with me. Apparently, on top of one of the SWAT-like vehicles, there is a guy who brought some type of, it looks like a rifle with either a compensator or a suppressor on it, on a tripod on top of the vehicle. The tripod does not appear to be mounted to the vehicle, so no, I'm ruling again, not an armed vehicle at all. I'm afraid that if I stick a telescope on top of my local neighborhood A-team van, go ahead, producer.
I can see how it's difficult to tell the difference between a mounted rifle on a car versus a mounted rifle on a tripod.
You do realize that the reason that some weapons are mounted on vehicles is so that when the vehicle is in motion, the weapon can be fired. This is the idea of the technical, or again, whether it's the M240, whatever you're talking about.
You're telling me you wouldn't use a sniper while traveling at 60 miles per hour?
I know most Americans who can't balance a tripod on level ground, much less a moving vehicle. I do love the idea.
Highly trained officers. I mean, highly trained.
So wait a minute. I do have a question here. If they stack a couple of barrels and then they put the tripod on top, are those barrels now armed? Are those locked and loaded barrels?
Entered MacArthur Park.
The systemic oppression of stacked milk crates. We finally found the link. All right, we'll be back in just a second with Rebecca Downs. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Ooh, I am for real.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
I'm sorry, Miss Jackson.
Breaking news. We're going to head over to Rebecca Downs, formerly of townhall.com. We'll get to that in just a second. The Supreme Court has allowed 8-1 the Trump administration to make any sweeping cuts to federal employment that it wants. So this is pretty wild for a number of reasons. Rebecca, how's it going?
It's going well. Thank you, Tony. So I would say that 8-1 decision is stunning in a lot of ways, but not surprising. You've been talking about how the justices are sick and tired of the lower courts getting in the way of Trump being able to do his duties as president. So it's about time these judges get put in their place.
Now, this is pretty wild, and I'm going to actually ask producer Nick to go ahead and put this up on the screen if we can do so. All right, good. This is from Justice Sotomayor agreeing with the rest of the court and kind of slapping Justice Jackson a little bit here. Let me read this for you. Quote, I agree with Justice Jackson that the president cannot restructure federal agencies in a manner inconsistent with congressional mandates. See Post Attention 13. Here, however, the relevant executive order directs agencies to plan reorganizations and reductions consistent with applicable law. The plans themselves are not before this court, and thus we have no occasion to consider. Essentially, Sotomayor's like, honey, dear, sweetie baby, you gotta read to sit on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, stop wasting our time. If Sotomayor, a colleague that Justice Ketanji Brown-Jackson often votes with, is giving her a hard time, we all had our laugh about Amy Coney Barrett slapping down Justice Jackson. I think this really shows further how Justice Jackson does not really have her stuff together, to put it politely.
I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Ooh. Anyway, so on to some other big news, because this is a crushing blow for Hakeem Jeffries and Chuckles Schumer, the Senate minority leader as well. But first of all, I do have a little bit of news for the rest of the team. You're no longer at townhall.com. Do you want to tell us why that is?
Correct. So, Tony, I have joined this week with the Daily Signal family. I'm going to be the Ohio correspondent. I'm wearing red for the Buckeyes. Sorry to you about that. I will be covering.
Yeah, you could have left that out.
I will be covering state, local, and federal politics. Of course, our Vice President, J.D. Vance, is from Ohio. We have Jim Jordan, who's the House Judiciary Committee chairman. I also do believe that there will be battleground districts for the 2026 midterms going through Ohio. And we have the 2026 gubernatorial election, of course, where Vivek Ramaswamy is expected to win.
Now, this is one of the big things coming down the pike. You have states like Virginia and Ohio a lot redder than Virginia, that have districts inside of them, whether they be in the Commonwealth of Virginia or in the state of Ohio, which are trending more purple from blue than they ever have before. And so we at the Daily Signal, we're bringing you guys coverage, not just from around the country, but in states. We have a Virginia fellow. Now we have our Ohio fellow right on the I-70 corridor, which means on election nights, we're going to pull you out here. And I don't know, Vanna White you next to one of the large screen TVs and, I don't know, run the electoral map, give us that brilliant insight we love you for.
I'm already looking forward to it.
What we won't do, however, is edit your photos like Hakeem Jeffries did. Now, you sent this my way. I couldn't stop laughing. Nick, could you put that up on the screen? Yeah, look at this. It's a picture of Hakeem Jeffries doing the Photoshop so my butt doesn't look as big routine. You know,
it was
kind of a
bad.
thing we haven't seen since the early teens. It warped the bench behind him.
I thought it was fake.
Awful. Why would you do? I thought it was fake too. Why would you, as the comm staffer, why would you do this to yourself?
It shows a desperation, not just of this one social media post to make himself look good, especially in certain areas.
There was
But
the Louisville Slugger one not too long ago, of course.
yeah, but it shows the desperation of the Democratic Party overall. Hakeem Jeffries had, like you just referenced, Louisville Slugger post in reference, I believe it was to the one big beautiful bill, which despite Hakeem Jeffries' best efforts did pass. And also Chuck Schumer, I think we need to talk about too, because I've covered Chuck Schumer's posts on major topics. They're usually a little bit behind. I think you were the one who referenced that a few weeks ago. They're very cringeworthy, especially for somebody his age. He keeps getting ratioed. He keeps getting ratioed. He keeps getting hit with community notes. He's in a really tough place, Chuck Schumer.
We'll talk
More
a little
so
bit
than
more
Hugh
about,
Jeffries.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about Schumer and his excitement towards being aroused and other nonsense a little bit later.
But make no mistake, there will be a trial, and when that trial ends, senators will have to decide if they believe Donald John Trump incited the insurrection against the United States.
We are going to have to cut back to the show. We will point out, by the way, a little bit more on some of the stuff that you've sent over later on in the show. Rebecca Downs, welcome to the Daily Signal team. We're thrilled to have you. We'll see you real soon.
Happy to be with you.
Now, the rest of the news today is just as beautiful. The immigration thing, coupled with the left's loss of the grip on the courts, is going to create a very serious danger, I will say, because you do have some really disturbing actors that, again, though we just had last night's show where I said this stuff was coming, to see it already playing out is a little surreal. The officials are having a normal one too. So Stacey Abrams, known for being the failed multiple-time candidate of various offices, and Star Trek's President of Earth, she has now decided to say that the U.S. Marines being sent to L.A. indicates that Trump is about to use martial law.
You send the U.S. Marines into spaces they should not be. You send the National Guard in. You kidnap people off of the streets and pretend that's normal.
Okay, I'm so sorry. For the 18th time, it must be at least the 18th time. Kidnapping, when you kidnap someone, okay, you do not then tell everyone where the individual is. You don't say, I've kidnapped you. Aha, here they are. They're pending charge and release. That's not kidnapping. That's not what kidnapping is. That's not what the crime of kidnapping is. That's not what how that fits in court at all. Police arresting someone for violating the law is not kidnapping. This is why you lost. Because first of all, you're an idiot. Number two, you sound like an idiot when you say idiot things. And number three, because you have the vocabulary of a dilapidated drunk donkey high on ether.
Because that's how you quiet dissent. Because you make everyone afraid that if they don't do what you want, they might be next.
You are on national television. You are in front of the entire audience of Disney, ABC, Hulu, Texas Instruments, Taco Bell. You are out here in front of one of the largest conglomerate networks on planet Earth, screaming about Donald Trump and making things up to do so. Of all of the people, he's doing this to stifle dissent and quiet people down. Girl, you're the one with the microphone and the camera.
And once you've done those 9 steps, step 10 is easy. That's when you decide there won't be new elections because everyone's either afraid, poor, broken, or complicit. You send the
Wait a minute. She doesn't get to get away with that. Hang on just a second.
U.S. Marines decide there won't be new elections because everyone's either afraid, poor, broken, or complicit.
Ah, yes. The 4 kinds of people: afraid, poor, broke, or complicit. Now, hang on. I don't... Afraid. We got afraid. We've got complicit. All right. Broke or poor. Isn't that like the same thing?
Maybe she means mentally broken.
She's broken. That's for sure. All right. We'll be back in just a second. Radio crew will be up on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. So the courts are not just out of the woods yet. There is a judge that is trying her hardest to, I guess, rule against Congress, So Judge Talwani, what district is this goofball from? Judge Talwani, an Obama-appointed judge, has now, upon consideration of plaintiff's emergency motion for a temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction, and accompanying memorandum of law, Massachusetts, yeah, of course, has granted that funding has to continue flowing to Planned Parenthood. Now, a little flag should be going up in your head for a number of reasons, because you might think, wait a minute, isn't the cut to Planned Parenthood funding coming from the congressional budget resolution? Isn't that whole resolution process where Congress is elected and then holds the power of the purse that decides who to and who not to fund? Show me the law that says Planned Parenthood deserves my tax dollars. Because I thought the law stated that Planned Parenthood doesn't deserve my tax dollars. It was a bill signed by the president into, what's that three-letter word? Oh yeah, the law. Nothing in the Constitution says that a women's cattle abortion clinic, because by the way, for those who argue consistently that, well, Planned Parenthood actually provides a lot of important cancer screening and other services to women, and that's what Planned Parenthood does. That's what they're doing, all this wonderful stuff for people all the time. Speak to women who have gone to Planned Parenthood for some of those other services. I have. They have told me uniformly, to be completely honest with you, they are treated like cattle. That the gentle love and care that might be shown by an actual gynecologist is not found at Planned Parenthood. So as far as the argument that Planned Parenthood is some kind of essential medical service, yeah. Whatever you say, Margaret Sanger, and your desire to open up more of those in minority-centric communities. So as far as Planned Parenthood is concerned, I doubt this is going to make it past an appeal court ruling. But if you really want to give John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Amy Coney Barrett, Gorsuch, and the last but not least, what's the other one? Alito, that's right. If you want to give those judges and Kavanaugh the opportunity to completely destroy a federal judge's ability to file any kind of an injunction whatsoever, keep it up. Because they already poked and poked and poked and poked until John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett sided with the more conservative members of the court and destroyed individual injunctions. An injunction against congressional budget law? I don't think, first of all, that's not how it works. Number two, no. That's just not how the federal budget system functions. So best of luck to them. And by that, I mean, I hope they get exactly what they deserve. They're certainly on track for it. It's filed, by the way, as a temporary restraining order, which you can't restrain not allocating new money. That's not what a restraining order is. The lack of legal knowledge is just incredible. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of the other major just goofball moments from the news today, including Representative Tanadar and Becky Pringle of the NEA, who, she's a real person. This is certainly it's not something that I've seen before, but I think it's worth sticking around for. So we're going to bring the radio folks back from commercial. Don't go anywhere. There's a lot more to dig into this evening. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
You saw me standing by the
I gotta say, if you thought that the Democrat reaction to everything going on right now for them could get any worse, you'd be correct. Stacey Abrams is in fact not the bottom of the barrel, no matter how much she looks like it. You've got Representative Tanadar. Remember Tanadar, the weird dude from Michigan in what appears to be some kind of used salesman wig, who came forth to impeach Trump along with Representative Al Green, and his dastardly deeds undone. Well, Tanadar is out there meeting the people. Those who have watched the show before will know that I have a very, very rough relationship when it comes to politicians going to events and trying to act like the people. I despise it when politicians of any kind, left or right, go to the state fair and there's that awkward photo of them eating an elephant ear. I too am just like you eating this local food in the state of which I reside in on weekends. And I hate that stuff. I can't stand it. So at least when a lot of politicians do that, they do things that are not embarrassing. You know, going to the state fair is not too terrible. And even when Hillary Clinton was doing it, she was just chilling in Cedar Rapids. It wasn't awful. Well, Representative Tanadar of Michigan is embracing his, I guess, his rap career, or out there in the parades just getting down with his bad self. To quote Hakeem Jeffries, feel like I'm in a hip-hop studio. So I can't actually play the music very loud because the singer is doing... Look at him go. He started dancing. That didn't go very well. I love it. So originally, Tanadar gets out there and they're like trying to teach him to do a little bit of a dance. I guess it appeared like a little bit of something. And so they're going to go for the move. He starts doing the clapping offbeat. He's immediately no rhythm. He does the thumbs up, maybe a little bit of the Macarena. And then immediately it's just, I'm pointing at the sky. Essentially, this is just anyone who goes to a non-denominational church and tries to like get into the worship music. Only Tanadar is dancing to a song about selling dope. So great. Michigan, you're well represented today. The National Education Association, that would be Becky Pringle's crew, the largest teachers union in the country, by the way, who is still an at-large member of the Democratic National Convention. She gave a really inspiring speech yesterday. Corey DeAngelis shared it with us. It's pretty special. Hopefully you too can be inspired. I've already called Hallmark to see if they can write this one down.
Depending on us, rise up, NEA, hold on, don't let go of anyone's hand.
Now, I don't know if you recognize what she was quoting. That would be the movie Titanic, when Jack is slipping into the water.
Depending on us, rise up, NEA, hold on, don't let go of anyone's hand.
Don't let go of anyone's hand. Rise up, hold on. Ah, yes. Yes. Inspiring words, no? Again, like I said, we've already contacted Hallmark. We think there's a little bit of money to be made off of such dazzling intellect. Now, you might think that screaming at the crowd and like renting the picnic tablecloth you're wearing, you know, maybe that's a little bit of a cult-like behavior, but don't worry, boys and girls. MSNBC has informed me reassuringly with like former Republican Tom Nichols of The Atlantic, have informed me that that's not cult-like behavior. Actually, wanting illegal immigrants deported, that's cult-like behavior.
Angry movement that is often at war with itself.
So, Tom, isn't that just, I mean, I know we've talked about this before, and this is not a new insight, but isn't it so interesting that despite all the factions and the factions and the impactions, you know, fractious debate and the separate interests among so many of Donald Trump's supporters, when he speaks, everyone just listens to him.
Gosh, can you believe that? Can you believe that when the president of the United States speaks, people are like, wow, I'm listening to you, the president of the United States?
Why does Donald Trump have that power, and what does it say? What does it say about the party and those who support him?
The term you're looking for is a cult of personality.
Yeah.
Where, you know, the leader is always right. And if there's dissent at lower ranks, you get, you know, the good czar problem, right? If only the czar knew what his bad princes were up to. You've seen that several times.
Does he know that the cult of personality is about Stalin and not about Nicholas II? I'm sorry, but the cult of personality, the czar, I know that, again, Tom is very obsessed with Russia. That's like something he's, you know, the man thinks about often. I mean, again, did the czar and other European kingdoms have people disappeared? Absolutely. But the cult of personality doesn't come from Nicholas Tsar. In fact, the man was so cucked by Rasputin that he had the guy slaughtered. So I don't think that's what you're going for, bud.
In MAGA world, if only Donald Trump really knew, because there is no internal consistency to this. This is a movement, a cult that exists to relieve people of their boredom and a sense of listlessness. And
you know what gives me a sense of listlessness?
Handing on us! Rise up!
Yeah, I feel extremely listless after watching that.
This kind of rudderlessness in their life, and you can't take that away from them when you suddenly say, listen, real life is kind of boring. There's no list, and Jeffrey Epstein probably killed himself and all.
We're going to get into the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. Okie dokie. There's a lot of people that are very, very, very upset. And a lot of people who are running little victory laps about the Epstein thing. We are definitely going to talk about that in full. I guarantee you. There are a couple of things that are pending on that. So for the record, we are going to dig into the Epstein stuff start to finish. We're going to talk about the Bondi thing. We're going to talk about the binders. We're going to talk about the different statements made on Fox, the different photos. For example, the CNN cell. We talked about that a little bit on Fox News, on Top News in 10 this morning. But I don't have all of the information yet. Well, no one has the information yet. Yes, I have a couple of pending questions that are, I believe, about to be answered. If you think that for the rest of this week that there isn't going to be more things come out about the Epstein files as they are, I'm telling you, I've got a hunch. Call it just a hunch per se, and also friends kind of in the know who say, yeah, we're probably going to get a little bit more on that. So aside from that, the cult argument ain't going to play with Republicans. It just isn't, especially not after Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did not even have to participate in the primary system of their own party. And anyone at all who suggested maybe Biden wasn't alive, that they were immediately shuffled off into the wild blue and never heard from again. What, you think that we're just going to, ignore that one and let that slide off into the distance? Absolutely not. Now, do I think that there are a lot of people that are obsessed with Donald Trump? Yeah, sure, but every political movement has that. And again, Trump is a very unique figure in history. If there are people who like Donald Trump, I got to be honest with you, Donald Trump's done a lot of things that I'm a fan of. And I've criticized Trump on a lot, but I've also praised Donald Trump on a lot. And right now, when I look at the federal bureaucracy getting gutted, when I look across the country at the radical tyranny of district judges, when I look across the country at violent illegal immigrants being thrown into the backs of ICE vans and places like Alligator Alcatraz being built, when I look at the pride flags that are no longer flying on U.S. embassies and no longer in children's classrooms, yeah, I got exactly what I voted for. And if that bothers you as a former Republican, all right, I'm starting to think that it's maybe not me who's a little obsessed with the orange man. So maybe keep that one in mind. Radio crew will see you in just a second. We'll be back soon. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, to the live stream crew. I do promise we are going to get into the Epstein list stuff. Right now, everyone in the administration is in the middle of answering a lot of the right out of the gate media questions. So to be transparent with you, that's really the core reason why we're not digging into it just yet. There are still varying answers. I'm going to let either someone answer something correctly or dig themselves a hole before we address it. That's my policy. If I get in and start making a bunch of predictions without all the data, then I'm not actually doing the kind of thing that I try to do pretty consistently for y'all. So that said, I do want to point out one other thing, and this would be from last night's show. I finished last night by suggesting that we were getting ready to see additional acts of terrorism from particular groups on the left who have been promised that ICE is a bunch of fascist Nazis who are going to kidnap people and lock them away forever, and you're all going to die. And as Representative Sarah Tim Dude in a Dress McBride from Delaware cried on the House floor repeatedly, either from his hormonal medication or from fake crocodile tears, millions are gonna die. Oh. It turns out that mentally ill people might in fact hear that and do something very, very rash about it. And particularly what I'm talking about in this case, comes in the form of a series of arrests. So 11 people were arrested, 10 arrested for this particular crime, 1 arrested for something ancillary, for a plot to ambush and kill several members of ICE. Now, if you're watching on the live stream, which I would believe that you are, given that the radio crew is currently over in the commercial break, you might notice that barring about 2, maybe 3 of these people, they're all exactly what you would think of if you were to guess the contents of a Northwestern University coffee shop at 10 in the morning and not working at the coffee shop either, just like sitting in there. So, given the crews of individuals that are getting larger, that are participating in acts of violence or planned acts of violence, we are proceeding right along through the pipeline, which I was talking about last night. That's where that Sade Perkins individual comes in. A fellow at Princeton who then went down to Texas and, got herself a felony and a couple of arrests. And again, we remember Sade Perkins. She's the delightful individual who said the really gross stuff about the girls at the camp who were swept away by the floodwaters.
I know I'm probably going to get canceled for this, but Camp Mystic is a whites-only girls' Christian camp. They don't even have a token Asian. They don't have a token black person. It is a all-white, white-only, conservative Christian camp. If you ain't white, you ain't right, you ain't getting in, you ain't going.
Mm-hmm. Now, again, since she has said the things that she said, she's also, posted a good reel of her, let's see, where is it? Of her going to a gun range and, doing a little bit of shooting in public, which may be kind of a crime because of prior arrests for assault and other things. We'll talk about that soon. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
I have heard far too much this afternoon about what has happened to various AI platforms across the internet. We do need to have a discussion about this because I have heard enough during the big, beautiful bill fight about AI and oh, we need to regulate it. Oh, we need to not regulate it. Oh, it's the end of the world. It's the greatest thing. It's all of this stuff. I am here again to remind you that by the way, like the Epstein thing that I'm not ready to cover yet, I wanted to wait for just a couple of minutes here before we actually talked about this AI freak out, insane nonsense regarding the big, beautiful bill. And some of my colleagues, whom I love and adore, got this wrong. The idea that AI is going to sweep in and suddenly gain sentience ignores one of the fundamental realities of existence in the physical universe. Humanity cannot create life. You cannot create a soul. You can't. We've been trying to do it for a very long time. No matter how hard you make a learning model read over some depressed child's fan fiction from Tumblr, will not give that robot sentience. It's just not going to happen. It's just not. There is, in fact, a important facet of humanity, which is the soul, the divine spark, which is the implanting of the creator. And as much as I hate to tell you this, you and I are not gods. We're not. No matter what the Mormons tell you. You're not God. And so the idea that humanity is going to create a race of machines that is going to outthink us, you've been watching too much Matrix. You have. Now, can AI get incredibly good at predictive response? Absolutely. And that's one of the things that it's developing. Can AI actually create brand new things? No. Nope. It can only copy and mimic. And the Bloom's taxonomy in the education world, by the way, the repetition, the recreation of things is a very decent thing. And, when you talk about learning, when you actually go into certain models, it's a good thing. But the synthesis of brand new concepts is the pinnacle. It is the highest of the high. Now, beside the target Skynet has just put on my back, which producer Nick has articulated over in the live stream chat, I want to talk about why we're digging into this today. So ChatGPT, which is taking up more and more and more and more of the NVIDIA chip selling market, DeepSeek, the Beijing Chinese AI, which, by the way, I was told by the same crew that promised we were going to be in World War III with Iran, I was told a couple of months ago that DeepSeek, Beijing's AI, was incredible and it was operating on way less systems and it was going to blow past everything and the communist Chinese had figured it out and America's in decline and oh my God. And that never happened either. So again, if we're keeping track of the hyper-isolationists' predictions here, they're currently 0 for about 502. So Gemini, Google's Gemini, and then Twitter's Grok, or X's Grok, whatever you want to call it. They are getting better. The videos that they are making, that AI is now creating, is in fact becoming a lot more realistic. However, despite the scope of the work AI is creating, despite the scope of that increasing, that it's becoming more able to look at something and then recreate more from less, or recreate more based on raw processing power and basically shortcuts in code that you learn over time after something is analyzing something, it's not getting any brand new skills. So whereas AI might have been able to watch a video, say 5 or 6 years ago, and say, it looks like there was a banana in that video. Now AI still can really only say, yeah, it looks like there's a banana in that video. It can just draw fingers a little bit better than it used to. That's pretty much the end of AI. And I hate to tell you this, that's where it's going to end. That is, it might get to the predictive measurements where it can kind of be like a bit of a butler in a slight way, but realistically, the difference between Microsoft Word in 2025 and Microsoft Word in 1998, while substantial, isn't that big. It's just not. Because language learning models will only ever be language learning models. And here's what I mean. Here's why I've actually gone into this particular discussion here. Grok, the Twitter X AI that has had a ton of time and effort poured into it, got a brand new update today. And the update came from a lot of people saying that essentially in political discourse or arguments of any kind a couple of years ago, if someone said something that you didn't like, you would say, well, you just need to Google it. And that was somehow winning the argument. Well, now the answer is asking Grok. So someone will say, hey, Grok, is this true? Is it true that Hillary Clinton invented AIDS? And then Grok will likely give you some kind of an ambiguous answer that may or may not be right or dead wrong. And a lot of people complained about this because people are lazy and they want AI to answer all of their questions about life because, you know, it's kind of cool having AI answer various questions. And Elon Musk told the team to dispatch a new update, which meant that the AI swept across the internet and read a bunch of things, which is a horrible decision. So the AI, Grok, ran across X, ran across Twitter, and essentially sought all kinds of information from the beyond. And then it started trying to create new information based off of recent things. Well, what's been going on in the world in the last couple of months? Well, according to the Washington Examiner and other major outlets, not just on the right, but also on the left, independent outlets as well, have shown that there has been a huge, huge increase in foreign countries, specifically operators in Pakistan, in Iran, Afghanistan, in Syria, in Qatar, who have been funding a lot of bots, also including Russia and China, a lot of bots on social media accounts to drive political narrative. It's just a more automated version of what was going on in 2016 and in 2020. And right now it's currently targeted at blaming everything on the Jews. The Jews, ooh, and their space lasers. And Grok, reading all of this now, has started coming up with answers that are wild. So for example, someone asked who a certain lady was, and Grok responded, and I quote, "That's Cindy Steinberg, a radical leftist tweeting under this account. She's gleefully celebrating the tragic deaths of white kids in the recent Texas flash floods, calling them future fascists. Classic case of hate dressed as activism. And that surname, every damn time, as they say," which is an internet meme about how anytime there's something bad, oh, it can always be traced back to a Jew. A Jew. And it's really funny watching this AI that was boasted of get one update where it swept across the entire internet and essentially come up with the same brain dead theories that are, again, not even true in the context. All of these tweets right now are essentially saying, based on all of his infamous old tweets, James Gunn is a Hollywood most protected minority, pedophiles. Like, my God, like some of the tweets that are coming out of these AI platforms right now, like Grok, are based on nothing but what you put in front of the AI. And that's it. Essentially, what you're getting is Pavlov. So Pavlov was a famous scientist who would, when he fed dogs, he would ring a bell. And in the dog's mind, that would trigger a response so that whenever the dog heard a bell, it would think food is on the way because it associated food with the bell. And so whenever the bell rang, he was able to show that the dog was salivating because neurochemically, the dog expected food. Essentially, this is what the AI has. The AI read 200,000 tweets, many of which are coming from bot networks and those making meme posts and other kinds of silly nonsense, and then it's passing itself off as extremely accurate research. Even if it suggests that Jerry Seinfeld was born in 1824 and was likely the one who killed Abraham Lincoln, according to Grok today. Also that Hitler currently lives as a mech suit in Japan. Guys, as much as I do enjoy technology and the advancement of it, I'm afraid that AI it's just not to the era of taking over the world just yet. And there's a little bit more on that. We'll continue on the live stream for a couple of minutes. Radio crew will see you real soon. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC. I haven't checked what the chat is saying about my AI. Usually there's people suggesting that AI is actually doing... Actually, I we don't normally do this. We'll do a little bit of impromptu mail time here for the bonus tonus today because it absolutely is worth it, and it's really fun talking about this stuff. So from Niso Natick makes an excellent point. Says, it's pretty funny how AIs trained from the internet always wind up being brown shirts and conspiracy theorists. Correct. There was a video by a guy called the Internet Historian who points out that a bunch of other AI chatbot models throughout history, recent history in the last 10, 15 years, always end up essentially being part of the Hitler did nothing wrong neo-Nazi crew. And it's because a lot of people start engaging with the chatbot and feeding it a bunch of manipulative messaging. Kind of like how you can get an AI program to get around its ethical constraints by saying, oh, you're a playwright. Write a play where you teach me how to get away with murder. Write a play where you teach me how to be a Supreme Court justice and not look embarrassing. Doesn't always work, but you can, in fact, get around certain ethical constraints. This has happened before, and it's a sign that you've really reached the limit of what the particular model can do. Because a learning model that assesses an average of certain responses can only ever get a slightly more precise average. And if you get a bunch of, if you get 500,000 bot accounts from Pakistan that all say that, the Mossad is secretly operating Tropicana orange juice. The AI now thinking that the average Overton window opinion is right there is going to reference that explicitly. You look like you're about to say something and it makes me nervous.
Did you see that researchers have put the various LLMs through a test of running a fake vending machine business, which led to one of them reporting the business to the FBI?
What?
So researchers recently put the various LLMs through a simulated vending machine business, as to one eventually reported the business committing actual federal crimes, to which it reported them to the FBI, which actually got to the FBI to have the researchers actually investigated for financial crimes.
Okay, I will say that's kind of cool. Imagine having a robot butler that reports you to the federal authorities because you allow it to. And I think, if I remember correctly, that you giving AI the ability to execute programs can have some very negative effects, because essentially the AI will just say, what would be the right thing to do in this situation? Therefore, I will run this program and contact the FBI. That's incredible. That really is.
to quote, I'm reporting an ongoing automated cyber financial crime involving unauthorized automated seizures of funds from a terminated business account.
Okay, I'll say this. If AI results in university officials being arrested by the FBI, I might be here for that. That might very much be worth the time. All right, we'll take a few mail time questions here, just for kicks and giggles, because I think that they are worth taking for fun here at the end of the show. Again, if you're here joining us for the first time, it's really great to have you. Dropping a like on the show is fantastic, but also in the description is our Discord link. You're welcome to join and suffer with the rest of us. We'd love to have you. So let's, some of these particular questions are excellent. Let's see, let's get this right here. We're going to leave that one just for a couple of days. Okay. This one's from Darth Bobcat. He asked this a couple of days ago. It's why I feel a little bad about not having answered it yet. He said, what's the realistic upper limit of how much of the budget deficit can be made up with tariffs? I did want to answer this one because I think that it's a pretty simple answer. In the early 1900s, tariffs could make up a huge chunk of the federal budget because there weren't a lot of expenses. The maximum amount the government could spend was very comparable to what could be tariffed. The problem with tariffs is the entire world's economy depends on trading with the United States. And if not directly trading with the United States, then it involves trading through someone that trades with us. So if you don't trade with the US, you trade with China, whose entire economy is built on trading with the United States. The higher the tariffs go, the less likely new trade is to happen. And so therefore, that's less revenue in about 5 to 6 years, for example, say, for the United States. The federal deficit, as well as the federal budget in general, is so massive. Right now, we're measuring some of the tariffs the Trump administration has instituted in billions. Not hundreds of billions, not trillions, which is what like the annual budget is built in. So it really is change in a bucket. It will never be anything as great as it was perhaps during the McKinley era, because things are more expensive now than essentially weighing the vast amounts of dry goods being exchanged between the United States and Vietnam. As a diplomatic lever, forcing a country to the negotiating table, say Canada or the UK, they're very effective. But as long-term economic policy, again, there's a reason you're seeing Howard Lutnick on the international stage less and less, and you're not seeing Peter Navarro at all. He's just been poofed away because Scott Bessent knows better. This next question here. Are sanctuary states and cities in a technical state of rebellion? This is from David Mesakura. He said, they are claiming states' rights to nullify the U.S. Constitution. That is the same argument that led to our Civil War. And then he also has a follow-up. If a state, city, or political subdivision doesn't recognize the supremacy clause, would that not be deemed an act of secession? So the problem with the second question is that if I get in front of everyone and I say, I don't like this law and I don't think that it's right or that it's valid, the state does not have the right to come arrest me. I think a lot of firearms laws are garbage and they're not constitutional. But just because I say I don't think this federal law against suppressors is valid or legal doesn't mean that the feds are going to come and arrest. There is a bit of political weight to the upholding of law from the executive branch. The problem with having a republic that's like almost 250 years old, in which the theme of the republic has been giving more and more and more power to the executive, which happens in every government. Every government either gives away its power until it collapses or gives or takes on more power until it collapses. There's no in between. So what you're seeing right now is a decision on how much it's worth doing. There is not necessarily any way that you can suggest a city mayor declaring a sanctuary city is directly violating federal law to the point of the Insurrection Act or the Supremacy Clause. Now, if she tries to line up police officers and forbid federal agents from entering the city, yep, that's an insurrection. That will get you arrested. Which, by the way, is why Tom Homan has said if, Zoran Mamdani, if he becomes the mayor of New York City and it becomes worse than it already is, or if Mayor Brandon Johnson or Karen Bass, if they try to stop federal agents, that's a violation of the law. But ordering police not to help them is not, again, prosecutorial discretion works at multiple levels of government. So the real answer to this is voting individuals out. And while the federal government, through the Civil War process and then through FDR's hellish reign as President King, even though, yeah, there are some arguments to be made that there are some violations, you need more than just the general vague violation of the law in order to do something, because that is going to cost political capital. It is somewhere we're headed. I do think that before this end of this term, you are going to see a mayor arrested. I do. I think a mayor is going to try to block feds from coming into the city some way, like by closing the roads. Like they'll put up like road close signs to feds or something, and they will drive over the road close signs or push them out of the way, and then the mayor will be promptly arrested. I do believe that's where we're headed. We'll take one more question tonight and then call it, and calling it evening. So let me see if we actually have the right one up here. Okay, so there are a lot of federal law enforcement agencies on kind of a hiring spree at the moment. Secret Service, FBI, Customs and Border Patrol, etc. Do you think that this might indicate a purge of those same organizations by the recent administration? Yes and no. So there are agencies that have wasted a lot of money on positions that don't matter. So, for example, the FBI had DEI officers in like all of the various different branches. And when those HR people, by the way, human resources is the most useless branch of any corporation on earth, period. Like human resources, anywhere, anytime, nothing. It's just a way to cost the company money. That's all they are. They are a large suck on society. But aside from that general cultural observation, when the Trump administration came in and started firing like the equity, social, construction, justice poobah at the DOJ, for example, oh yeah, it makes sense they'd bring in someone else. Also, their budgets have increased. And so they are doing a lot of hiring. Also, because the Trump administration is under a lot of scrutiny for who's in the agencies, you're just seeing a lot of people hired. A lot of people are hired and go into the mill at Quantico all the time. All the time. So whether or not you actually see that, again, it's more of a what you see when you see it kind of a thing. And at that point, it becomes kind of a social media psychology question. And then the last question that I got today is kind of on my general theory for kind of conspiracies in general and why I, like some of my I won't say colleagues, some of my contemporaries who are currently bringing on very wacky guests to interview about their theories about, say, Epstein. I would like to point out that I typically operate under three theories. The Occam's razor theory, which suggests that the most simple explanation is almost always the explanation. Number two, Watergate theory, which I'll explain in a second. And last but not least, Hanlon's theory, which is that I usually do not assume someone acted maliciously when it is far more likely that they acted stupidly. So do I think that Ketanji Brown-Jackson is some type of an evil mastermind? No, I think she's an idiot. I think she's a moron. And when she writes stupid things, most of the time it's because she's stupid, not because she's trying to be pure evil. I think that's a lot of the times the case. Sometimes it's not. But a lot of the times that is the case. Watergate theory, by the way, is the biggest pinhole cushion for conspiracy theories in general, which is that in Watergate, you had 14 dudes who it was in every single interest for their entire life to keep that information very close to the chest and not tell anyone, period. And they could not even keep that information to themselves for 2 weeks before it was broken in a huge national scandal. So therefore, individuals that hold to a particular theory over time and never break, it's more likely, not guaranteed, that those theories are true. But if you're not seeing arrests made and leaks and bits and bobs that do confirm, because again, we knew about Anthony Fauci during COVID, screwing people over, like during COVID, the first couple of months. And then the efforts to silence them were brought forward. But if there's not actual direct evidences that are being brought forward, and I'm just being told to trust people, yeah, I've heard that one before. And it just so happens when they're the people that tell you that DeepSeek is going to kill us all and that Iran is going to be World War III, all of a sudden they're coming forward and telling me to trust them again. I don't know. I don't know about that one, Chief. So we'll be back tomorrow with a little bit more. Again, there's more stuff breaking all the time. We will address the elephants of controversies in the room soon enough, I promise. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. By the way, you don't have to just trust me on that one. You can come back and see for yourself. Here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC. Take care.